Thank you. And B-Rain took us to a different level, a different orbit in terms of adoption of technology. But if you have to get to that level of use of technology, there are certain hygiene stuff, building blocks that an organization needs to put in place. And that's precisely what I would be really focusing on in my talk. So this is like the Oscars award. The award for the most impactful technology in 2023. And the nominees are, this is no kind of brainer, right? So the winner, hands down, will be the DnA, which has created a kind of a storm ever since November 2022. And our Prime Minister, who's very, very tech savvy, very, very digital savvy, I just picked up this about a month ago. He made the statement saying, shun Danda, employ data for modern policing. So the Prime Minister himself seems to be, because organizations seem to be talking of driving, a data-driven organization. Our Prime Minister seems to be kind of leading this entire transformation in India in terms of using technology, digital, and data. So is the Prime Minister not championing a data-driven India is the question which I'm asking. And you have world leaders across, business leaders, business tycoons, corporate leaders, all talking about the potential of data, the potential of AI and so on. To the extent where you have so many people talking about it, to the extent where a couple of years ago, I think during the COVID time, there was a summit in Mumbai. It was on responsible AI. And Mukesh Ambani, a very powerful statement he made. He said, in the past, nations have competed on physical capital, financial capital, human capital, but the future will be fought on data capital. So he said, if the country today, we talk of so much of GDP, right? The future wealth of the nations and organizations will be measured by the gross domestic product. But it's just not the gross domestic product, but going forward with the potential of data. GDP is just not gross data domestic product, but also the gross data product. So data in the value chain, it's like the blood in the human body. Every second, as the blood flows through our various organs, touching upon various organs in our body, it carries blood. And similarly, I think in organizations, which includes even the manufacturing industry today, the technology data has become the lifeline today, flowing across the organization to the extent where even if the systems are down for about 10-15 minutes, any organization, including manufacturing organizations where I was working earlier, comes to a grinding halt. So, but what is very important is, I call this as, for your body to be fit, you need oxygenated data, and every second the human body, the blood absorbs oxygen, right? And then feeds it to the various organs, which includes the brain, which I believe consumes the maximum amount of oxygenated blood. So similarly, in an organization, data has become so very crucial today that oxygenated data is important. That is, good data, good quality data is required. So I'm equating oxygenated blood and oxygenated data, and that's becoming very, very crucial as organizations are now embracing to use more and more of data, more and more of AI in their organizations. So this is the universe. And universe, they say there are about 200 billion galaxies in our visible universe. And we live in a universe called the Milky Way, right? And that is one among those 200 billion galaxies. And every galaxy has got about 200 billion to 1 trillion stars, right? So and unfortunately, the nearest galaxy from the Milky Way, they say is about 2.5 million light years away, which is Andromeda. So if you take a Boeing 737 to fly from the Earth to the galaxy, they say it would take about 91 million years, that is 9.1 crore years, for that aircraft to reach the nearest galaxy. So you can imagine the possibility of finding life in our universe is infinite, it is limitless. Similarly, I'm talking of, if this is our universe, Welcome to the data universe. The data universe seems to be expanding, becoming as big as our universe itself. The possibility of mining value from this huge amount of data, which seems to be only exponentially growing, is infinite. So our organizations are poised to, I call this as welcoming this AI Lalla. We welcomed Ram Lalla on the 22nd of January. So as organizations are poised to welcome the AI Lalla, it is very important that organizations build a very, very strong foundation, which is what I'm going to talk about, those building blocks, or the 10 mantras which are very, very critical for the success of any DnA initiative in your organization, data and analytics. So the 10 mantras are, I've just listed down that. Let's quickly go through each one of them. The first mantra is, as organizations have realized that you can mine value from different types of data today, both structured data, unstructured data. The unstructured data could be telematics data, it could be audio feeds, it could be video feeds. You can use AI to derive insights from this, right? So organizations are looking at expanding this data landscape, the terrain of this landscape, because the more and more of relevant data you capture, you are poised to you stand in a better position to derive maximum value using technologies like AI. And more importantly, looking at even ingesting data from your external world, sourcing data which is relevant to your organization from the external world, and then helping in building, I imagine, you will be building your own LLMs in the future. So expanding the organization's landscape is one which needs to be focused on. I'm saying you need to be a Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon was known for conquering land. So technology leaders should be like Napoleon Bonaparte, conquering the data landscape in the organization. The second mantra. So this is Gordon Ramsay, the very celebrity chef, right? So if you were to give, poor quality ingredients, it could be groceries or it could be vegetables, even Gordon Ramsay will not be able to produce a dish which is of quality, right? So similarly in an organization, if you don't focus on your data quality, and I'm not getting into the details, there are 7 elements of all this: completeness of data, accuracy of data, and so on. If you do not focus and have a very concerted kind of an effort and a focus on looking at improving your data quality in the organization, which seems to be one of those major pain points for organizations today, you're going to have a major issue, especially when you migrate to the higher levels of analytics using AI, where you will have bias and data which is already biased. So your output is going to be very, very biased. Today you talk of real-time enterprise, right? On this earth, we talk of real-time enterprise, we talk of everything real-time. But the moment you look up, Pratik, into the sky, everything is history, right? Even the light that we receive from the sun is about 8.5 minutes old. Meaning to say, if the sun suddenly, for whatever reason, stops shining, we would not know that for about 8.5. And of course, the stars and all that are millions of light years away. Everything is history. But on this earth, we talk of everything real-time. So organizations, if they have to become real-time enterprise using real-time data, it becomes very important because you're going to base your decisions on the data. The quality of data becomes very, very important. So I'm just saying, since I come from the manufacturing domain, if I say in the manufacturing industry, you have an army of people who look into, looking at the quality assurance of incoming material. Should you not have in your organization a team which focuses on purely improving the quality of data? The third mantra, build data literacy and data culture. And this is what Gartner says. Data literacy is the ability to read, write, and communicate data in context, right? Do you have this ability in the organization to, and he says, of course, Gartner, by 90% of the organizations will have a structured program to improve the data literacy in their organizations. So do you have an organization, and I strongly believe, if you have to go up the maturity in terms of your data and analytics, it could be AI-enabled analytics, you have to develop the competence in the organizations for people to ask relevant questions based on data. That is a competence that needs to be. You could have the best of dashboards, visualizations, and tools and whatnot, but are people able to ask the right questions? That's a competence to be developed. The second is you need to build that competence for sniffing the intelligence from the data. This picture which you see is a dog, and that's a chicken biryani. So if you keep a chicken biryani in front of you, Pratik, you will get that blended smell, of basmati rice and garam masalas and blah, 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 whatever. They say the same thing if you keep it in front of a dog, right? It can sniff the individual ingredients out. It can sniff the garam masala out, the beans out, the garlic out, the onions out individually. So data seems to be sending a lot of these intelligence and signals. Are we in a position to sniff that intelligence, right? Establish digital and DNA leadership in the organization. Unless you have the sponsorship and the patronage of the leadership team in your respective organizations, you will not be in a position to derive success from your DnA programs. So it becomes very, very important that you are able to bring your senior leadership up to mark in terms of them, making them understand the potential of data and what data can really do, and help them to move up the ladder in terms of them being able to use data. And I'm imagining that in the future, in the light of generative AI and technologies, the process of decision making is going to significantly change. The quality of decisions is going to be significantly changed. So I'm imagining in management meetings or in board meetings, you're going to have a prompt engineer who's going to be there as a permanent invitee for the board meeting. And you have the board members asking several questions, and you have your own captive LLM there. And then he puts the right prompts in, and he's able to get all the outputs on the screen. And the board members discuss, deliberate, and then arrive at decisions. It could be the board, it could be the senior management. So I'm imagining that the process of decision making and the quality of decisions will also significantly improve going forward. Drive data monetization in infonomics. And the moment you say monetization, people think of only generating revenues, which is the direct monetization. I'm saying the competence in the organization for you to be measuring the benefits out of your DnA initiatives, right? Put a number to it and then measure the benefits out of it, and then go and then say, through this analytics, or it could be a dashboard, it could be a report, whatever it is. This is the kind of benefit what we have got in the organization. Can you put a number, derive, and then kind of do it in a very, very objective way? And that is the indirect. And that, of course, look at all ways and means, technology leaders, to monetize your data. And when I say data here, it's just not data. It could be raw data, it could be massage data, it could be software products, it could be applications, it could be solutions, it could be analytics, applications, whatever it is. All put together, I'm saying is build the competence in the organization to drive monetization in the organization. The mantra number 6, build a team of DnA evangelists. The major problem that organizations have is when they drive analytics is to identify the right use case. So you need to have a kind of a team, a creamy layer, which is competent to identify high impact use cases in the organization. So you need to move from, I'm saying the previous one, tech leaders and technologists have to be, we are very good in problem solving. We have to move from not only being problem solvers, but we need to be problem finders. When I say problem finders, in identifying the right use cases. Implement a data governance framework, which seems to be very, very basic today. If you have to achieve whatever you have planned as part of your DnA, it's very important that you have a robust data governance which kind of looks at every aspect from the time you capture data to you processing the data, for you storing the data, consuming the data, distributing the data, archiving the data, and ultimately deleting the data also. From a DPDP perspective, you will be required to be not storing the data, you will be required to be even delete the data also. How are you managing this data lifecycle on an end-to-end basis? So this data governance framework, I'm saying, is very much like a constitution. So the Constitution of India basically is a kind of a framework where it determines and tells you what a citizen's duty is, his responsibility is, and so on and so forth. Similarly, a data governance framework has to clearly define the responsibilities on an end-to-end basis. 8th one, develop data infrastructure and tools. You need to have data. You can't say when businesses are asking for applications to be developed, saying my data is in silos, it is in the ERP system, CRM system, whatever it is. Do you have data in the combat ready mode? What you see on the right hand side is, they say the Indian Air Force, the moment they get an information that there is an intruder aircraft in the Indian airspace, they scramble off a jet fighter. Within 5 minutes, they are able to scramble off a jet fighter from any of the air bases across India. So if that is the kind of response time in the SLA, you can imagine the kind of people, process, technology, SOPs that are in place to enable and deliver that kind of an SLA. Have you lined up your data? Have you organized your data in such a way that you're able to provide this kind of response times when the business asks for to develop applications at breakneck speed? Are you in a position to develop using data in a combat ready mode? And then we can talk of, have you got data in your data lakes, and how is it kind of helping you to be building applications very, very quickly? Ninth one, data security and privacy. You can't take your eyes off from your data security and data privacy. In today's context, I was saying cybersecurity is going to be there, right, with new threat vectors. And I'm talking of threat vectors like COVID variant mutation. I talk of threat vector mutations, right? Phishing, what it was about 5 years ago, the avatar of phishing has changed in the last 5 years with more and more of AI, with more and more of social engineering being embedded as part of that. So this is a very, very live, with even state-sponsored attacks taking place. You had this news yesterday that several US departments have been kind of impacted by these cyber attacks, and which are all state-sponsored by an organization called Anonymous Sudan, right? State-sponsored. So under those circumstances, I think it's very, very important that you do everything, technology leaders, to focus on data security, cyber security, and data protection. And data privacy in a regime where India has gone in for DPDP law, and you're going to see a lot of action in the next, probably by the end of this year. And I anticipate that every organization will have its own chief data privacy officer, like a chief information security officer in the next few months. So you're going to see a lot of action in this. And so it's important that you can't afford to take your eyes off from data privacy. Develop data storytelling skills. These are frogs. You know, you had a community of frogs who lived their life, who loved living their life. But they said, let's kind of spice it up a bit. So they said, let's have a competition. So all this frog community, Pratik, they all got together the next day, early morning. They all gathered in the foothills of an ancient fort. And the whistle blew off, and all the frogs started climbing. The prize was for the frog which reaches the top of the fort, ancient fort first. All the frogs very enthusiastically, with a lot of energy, started climbing. And in the meanwhile, you had a lot of these villagers who were living nearby. They all gathered there, and they encouraged all these frogs, saying, come on, come on, come on, come on. At some point, halfway down the line, they realized that some of the frogs were finding it difficult because it had rained. There was a lot of moss on the walls of the fort. And they found that the frogs were finding it difficult to get a grip, and they were slipping. So the villagers shouted to the frogs and then said, hey guys, get down, otherwise you're going to lose your life. Some of the frogs heeded to this advice, and most of the frogs heeded to the advice, and they all started climbing down. There was this one frog which went on climbing despite all the villagers shouting, and not only the villagers, even the fellow frogs also were shouting, saying, get down, climb down, climb down. This frog went on climbing. It reached the summit also, the top of the fort. You had a huge vulture there standing at the top of the fort. And the vulture said, hey you, how did you reach the top? When all the people were telling you to get back, you have reached the top. And you know what was the reaction of this frog? It said, huh? So it was a deaf frog. So the story here is, now whatever I narrated, I'm sure every one of y'all can reproduce the same story. The same thing what I said, because I narrated a story. And this is what Biren was also talking of, storytelling, right? So the 10 mantras, you have data, you have good quality data, You have good visualization, whatever, reports, and you have built a lot of data literacy in the organization, but you need to have people to use that data to communicate, tell a story. Storytelling becomes very, very important using data. And that's just not an art, but it's a science by itself. The moment you narrate a story, they say, what happens? Why is it, why does it have a big impact? Because it kind of activates a lot of antennas in your brain. And a lot of things which are supposed to be in your RAM gets into your permanent memory, right? So using that, you're able to make better decisions, better quality decisions, and so on. I have a video to play to narrate the power of data storytelling and narration. Please have a look at it. Lights off, please.
What did you do to my sign?
I wrote the same, but in different words.
Thanks, love.
A simple thing. In the first thing, when he said, I'm blind, he was evoking sympathy. When the narrative changed, and he said, the lady came and then changed that to say, it's a beautiful world, and I can't see it. He evoked empathy. And there's a difference between sympathy and empathy. And that's the power of narration, right? So data storytelling is all about visualization plus your narrative plus your context and the contrast in terms of comparing it to best practices, benchmarking, and so on. All this put together makes a very, very compelling data story. So this is what Gartner says. So these are the 10 mantras, very, very briefly. In fact, I have a presentation for each of those for about half an hour or so, but I just gave you a very high-level view of these 10 mantras. Data is the heartbeat of AI today, and just like skilled conductor, he's like Zubin Mehta there standing in the middle. The quality of a data orchestrates the harmony or chaos in the AI outcomes, right? Very, very important. So when you go back to your office tomorrow, happens to be a working day tomorrow, Thursday, right? March 14th, start off somewhere, if you have not already got started. Launch a data care program. We talk of customer care, we talk of patient care. Talk of a data care program to nurture, protect, and maximize the value of your data assets in your organization. Thank you very much.